webinar on operationalizing Defender CSPM for strategic security management. As Jason mentioned, my name is Giulio Astori. I am a cybersecurity specialist and a product manager for Defender for Cloud at Microsoft. I have been working in the cybersecurity field for over 15 years, and for the past 7 years, pretty much I'm focused on cloud security solution and strategic security management. I'm very excited to have you all here today, and I'm looking forward to share some valuable insight with everyone and each of you. Today we are going to dive in how Microsoft Defender for Cloud, specifically security posture management, aka also CSPM, can be effectively integrated into your strategic security practices. As cloud environments become increasingly more complex, the need for a proactive and a strategic approach to the security management has never been more critical than today. CSPM, the Cloud Security Posture Management, it is designed to provide comprehensive visibility and the controls over your multi-cloud environments. It will help you identify and remediate security risk before they actually become true incidents. By using Defender for Cloud CSPM, you can enhance your organization security postures, you can ensure compliance, and then you can streamline your security operations. Our goal, our objective today is to provide you with some knowledge and tools to leverage Defender for Cloud CSPM strategically, so you can proactively manage security risk and then align your security initiative with your organization objectives. Here is what we'll be covering in today's sessions, pretty much the overall agenda. We will explore how high quality recommendation and observations to compliance standards can significantly impact your overall security. We'll then discuss the benefits of moving from isolated binary assessment to comprehensive full contextualized assessment, which will provide a sense of a unified security perspective. Then we will look at how the Defender for Cloud CSPMs enable a centralized security view, simplifying management across your Azure, AWS, and GCP. We'll then move into how we can integrate CSPM with the Cloud Infrastructure Entitlement Management team and the IT Service Management, ITSM, system that will enhance operational efficiency. We'll explain how leveraging a risk factor, which can improve your security score and help you prioritize your security initiative effectively. We will then have a live demonstrations. And finally, time permitting, obviously, we're going to have the questions and answer for you to do it. So any further ado, let me go ahead and click next. And let's populate the whole slide. So as we all know, the cloud has transformed the way we all do business nowadays. This transformation offers an unparalleled flexibility and scalability. However, the same transformation and the shift has also introduced a new set of security challenges. The dynamic and the distributed nature of the cloud environments today means that traditional security approach are no longer sufficient. We need something more. Organizations are grappling with complex multi-cloud environment, which basically creates a bit of a complexity around how you can actually manage the overall security across those different cloud platforms. Okay, the three major platforms that most of the people are using today are obviously Azure, AWS, as well as GCP. Then there is an evolving threat landscape. The cyber threats have becoming more sophisticated, and they are targeting cloud infrastructure with advanced tactics. Also, we have regulatory compliance issue. We need to keep up with all the diverse compliance standards across different region, different industry, and then that adds additional layer of complexity. Finally, the security teams are often stretched thin, which will cause resource constraints. They need to do more with less while ensuring the same time the robust security. Those challenges highlight the need for a proactive and integrated and strategic approach to cloud security posture management. So what is happening in your cloud environment? I'm just going to read very quickly those typical questions. What are my resources? Where is my data? What is internet facing? Should those resources be exposed to the internet or not? Who can actually access my data for real? Are my general AI applications exposing sensitive data? Does my code have any exposed credential? What are the critical vulnerability in the context of the business and exploitability risk? Is there an active exploit in my environment? How do I respond quickly? Those are just some very few of today's security questions that many organizations are asking themselves. Likely, this is where Microsoft Defender for Cloud comes into place. So for those that are not really familiar yet with the Microsoft Defender for Cloud, where is it, Microsoft Defender for Cloud? Well, Microsoft Defender for Cloud, it is a CNAPP solution. And for CNAPP, we intend cloud native application protection platforms. It is a solution that is designed to secure multi-cloud environment and the natively cloud applications. He provides comprehensive code to runtime security. Starting with the security development, we have a native security control. They are infused in the existing developer workflow to help you to code and build those applications securely. With the contextual posture management that Defender for Cloud provides, will help the organization prioritize, ranking, and reduce the risk continuously across the entire cloud application lifecycle, and will protect your organization's cloud against evolving threats, almost with a near real-time detection for cloud workloads, for data, for API, and we all do this into a unified XDR experience where you can enable all kinds of correlation and advanced copilot powered response action across your entire digital estate. Defender for Cloud offer three main pillars: traditional CSPM, workload protections, and the whole notion of DevOps security. Defender for Cloud CSPM is one of those main pillars in the solution, and it is designed to help you navigate those challenges by providing a comprehensive visibility across your postures. It offers a unified view of your security postures across all your cloud environments, Azure, AWS, and GCP, and enables you to see potential risks and vulnerabilities in one place. Then it will provide guidance on the most impactful security improvements tailored to your environment. It simplifies compliance by continuously assessing your environment against the industry standards and provide actionable insight to address those gaps. And finally, we integrate it with other security and management solutions like CIEM and ITSM tools so that the Defender CSPM can help operationalize the security management, make it an integral part of your workflow. By incorporating Defender CSPM into your strategic security management, you then can move from a reactive to a proactive stance. Such will allow you to, number one, prioritize, so ranking the risk more effectively. Using the risk factors and the secure score enhancements, you can focus on the most critical issues that could impact your organization. Then we allow you to streamline the operation. Why? Because the integrations will reduce manual effort, and then obviously will streamline the remediation response, even the incident response. And finally, we'll align the security with the business objectives. A strategic approach will ensure that the security initiative will support and enhance your overall business goals. In essence, Defender CSPM empowers you to take control of your cloud security landscape proactively, efficiently, and most likely strategically. There are two flavors of CSPM in Defender for Cloud. One is the foundational CSPM, and it is enabled by default. There is no cost associated with that. And there is a Defender CSPM, which is a billable plan, and then adds tons of additional capability on top of the regular foundational. But most likely, the Defender CSPM unlocks the strategic contextualization of your security insights and the risk level evaluations. Let's dive into how recommendation with the Microsoft Defender CSPM serves. Let's dive into how the recommendation within our solution serves as kind of like the cornerstone for guiding your security improvements. In Defender CSPM, recommendations are generated through continuous assessment of your cloud resources, and that assessment is against a set of security best practices and compliance requirement. Those recommendations are essentially actionable insights that pinpoint the vulnerabilities, the misconfigurations, or the deviations from established policies within your environment. For example, let's say that you receive a recommendation to enable encryption on a storage account that currently is encrypted. Restrict the network access by configuring security groups appropriately. Update an outdated version of software component to address known vulnerabilities. Those are just a few examples, but those recommendations are ranked based on the potential impact of your security postures, allowing you to focus on the most critical issue first. Now, by systematically addressing those recommendations, you can then significantly reduce your attack surface, and then most important, you can enhance your organizational resiliences against the known threats. So what is crucial here is that recommendations in Defender CSPM are not just generic advisories. They are actually tailored to the specific configurations and context of your cloud environment, making them highly relevant and actionable. Defender CSPM adds significant enhancement to deliver comprehensive security insights and streamline the risk management across your entire digital estate. First, the recommendation engine leverages advanced analytical and threat intelligence to cut through the noise and prioritize your most critical risk. This is done through agentless and agent-based type of approach, which will provide, at the end of the day, a complete visibility across your multi-cloud environments It will ensure that you receive a context-aware insights that are actually tailored to your unique infrastructure. Second, Defender CSPM offers an expanded coverage through its cloud security graph, which integrates insights across multiple security tools, such as cloud workload protection, DevOps security, Microsoft Entra, Defender ESM, Microsoft Sentinel, Defender XDR, Azure Network Security. And thirdly, the recommendations are now ranked, so they are better, so they can better show which of the recommendation resource needs to be prioritized. The way we do it, we consider factors such as exploit trends, the sensitivity of the data that is involved, the exposure level of the resources. Those are the factors that are influencing the ranking of the recommendation per the resource. This is basically what we call a risk-based prioritization, which will help you obviously to focus on those vulnerabilities that could have the most significant impact if exploited. Finally, Defender CSPM streamlines the recommendation process by providing, number one, detailed guidance and documentations. Will offer automated remediation options, and then will enable automatic assignment of resources ownership. And obviously all this will influence on how we help reducing time to mitigate the identified risks. Compliance is also a critical aspect of the security management. We mentioned earlier, especially with the increasing number of regulations and standards the organization must adhere when they are in a global business industry. Defender CSPM will help bridging the gap between the security recommendation and the compliance requirement by mapping a recommendation directly to the specific control within the various compliance standards. We have standards such as CIS benchmark, the NIST 853, PCI DSS, ISO 27001, HIPAA, so on and so forth. This is just few of those. We have a library around 30-ish standards. When you view a compliance recommendation, you can see which compliance control it addresses. This means that by acting on a recommendation, you are simultaneously improving your security posture and moving towards compliance. For instance, if a recommendation advises you to enable logging for certain resources, it will also indicate that this action helps satisfy a specific control in, let's say, the PCI DSS requirement. That's actually a pretty good thing because you can see how a recommendation will affect the compliance of a multiple standard that you have to obey by. The Defender CSPM also provides a compliance reports and a dashboard that will give you at a glance a view of your compliance status across different standards. Those tools makes it easier to prepare for audits and demonstrate the compliance to the stakeholders, and obviously identify the areas that require attention. At the end of the day, by integrating compliance considerations directly into the recommendation, the solution will streamline your effort to meet your regulatory obligation while improving the security. So to illustrate the impact of the improvements of having this compliance all together, let's consider some fictional real world. In an healthcare organization, let's use an healthcare organization, all right, a typical example. This healthcare organization was facing some challenges in maintaining compliance with HIPAA regulations, right? At the same time, managing a complex multi-cloud environment across the three main cloud providers. After the organization has implemented the Defender for Cloud and enabled the Defender CSPM along with other configurations and plan, they were able to leverage improved recommendation to identify all those critical compliance gaps. And by following the prioritized compliance alignment and recommendation, they were able to reduce the risk, achieve compliance, and optimize the resource. As a result, they not only enhanced their security posture, but they also passed their subsequent compliance audit with the flying color. It's just an example. But that's obviously something that happens as well in the real life. Oops, too far. So now let's explore how CSPM in the Microsoft Defender for Cloud security assessment have transformed the strategic security management. In a traditional security assessment approach, the organization often faces several challenges. Number one, the security assessment were sometimes limited to specific resources or services, and that led to a siloed understanding of security issues. We call that fragmented insights. Then, without having a comprehensive and continuous assessment, the organization were often in a reactive mode. They were trying to address issues after they have been exploited. That is basically reactive posture. The traditional assessment did always account for the interdependencies between the resources, which at the end could result into some kind of like incomplete understanding of the overall risk. And that is basically what we call limited context. Then we have a complexity in prioritizations. Determining which vulnerabilities or misconfiguration to address first was difficult without having a clear understanding of the overall risk. Therefore, managing and remediating findings from multiple assessments consumed significant time and effort, and very often that led to important issues being overlooked. Those challenges delayed the organization from effectively strategizing the security initiatives and could lead to inefficiency and increased risk post-exposure. The transition to the full contextualized assessment that we have discussed through the slides addressed those challenges. Address those challenges by providing holistic evaluations of your cloud environment security postures. Here, I have a bullet list of some key advantages. First of all, a unified security perspective. A full assessment aggregates the findings across all the resources and control, and that gives you a single coherent view of your security landscape. Recommendations are also tailored based on the context of your environment, or consider factors like resource sensitivity, exposure level, criticality of the resource, and this is basically the portion that we call contextual understanding. Second, we have the enhanced risk prioritization. The platform that we provide uses a risk-based score to prioritize the recommendation based on the potential impact, by considering the cumulative impact of multiple issues, enabling you to prioritize remediation efforts based on the actual risk that your organization can possibly face. Then we have the strategic focus of this alignment. The approach here allows you to allocate resource more effectively, basically focusing on the higher impact area. Then we have a streamlined compliance management. Compliance is important, all right? We have a built-in compliance standards, a very good a good set of an initiative in our libraries. Defender for Cloud will assess your environment against the compliance standard that you decide to enable, such as CIS, NIST, PCI, DSS, so on and so forth. And this will provide a compliance reports that will help you understand your compliance posture and what actions are actually needed to meet that regulatory requirements. Then we have a simplified remediations. Here, we have actionable recommendations. Why? Because each finding will come with a guidance on how to remediate issues. Those guidance are often step-by-step instruction to remediate manually, or for most of them, there is also an automated remediation option to fix automatically, or to use automated workflows, such as logic apps, or even leveraging Azure policies if the Azure is your environment, or other products for AWS and GCP. Then finally, we have it has the enhancement on the collaboration, the communications. The security findings and the reports that we provide through Defender CSPM or Defender for Cloud can then be shared with the stakeholders. And that will allow fostering a better communication between the technical teams and the management. You can have dashboard alike that you can build and present to your executives and make them an easy way to quickly glance on what is important to the security of the organizations. Also, we have way to customize notification, customize alerts, okay? With that, you can keep the relevant team members informed about all those critical issues, or inform the actual owners of those resources. If you look into how all those capability, you can see that by leveraging those enhancing security assessment, you can gain a comprehensive understanding of your security posture. And that will enable to make a very good informed decisions and being able to prioritize actions that very much likely will align with your organizational risk tolerance and your business objectives. To fully benefit from enhanced security assessment in Defender for Cloud, here are some of the practical steps that you are recommended to do. The very first thing is enable Defender CSPM across your environment. As I said earlier, the foundational, it is already enabled by default. It will provide you a really good visibility into your security postures, but it's a bit more atomic, binary sorts of assessment. Defender CSPM unlocks the whole context-aware feature sets. So you have to ensure that Defender for Cloud, Defender CSPM is enabled across your multi-cloud environments. It's very important if you have more than one cloud environment that you manage, if you have Azure, AWS, and GCP. Then you need to review and configure your security policies. Customize the security policies, the recommendations, the standards, so that you can align with your organization standard and compliance requirement. Do not take everything that is by default. Exclude any policies, any security control. They are not relevant to your environment to focus on what is really important. Then you want to make sure that you set up a risk-based alerts or notification. We recommend to configure notification alerts based on the risk level so that critical issues are brought to your attention promptly. And then we recommend that you integrate with your preferred communication channels, such as email, or even better, the ITSM tools. Then you want to leverage the automation as much as possible to remediate those recommendations, those security findings. We have several ways to do it. You want to leverage the native policies enforcement tools, such as Azure Policies for Azure, which allows you to enforce security configuration across your subscriptions or across your entire tenant. If it's AWS, you can use AWS config rules and the SCPs, the service control policies, to define and do the similar enforcement of the security configurations that are obviously aligned with your policies. For GCP, I believe the equivalent will be the organization policy services, which will allow you to set and enforce such policies as well over there. Then you want to automate the remediation processes. For Azure, you can use the built-in, natively built-in Defender for Cloud capability that is called the workflow automation. The workflow automation will basically trigger an action, and that action is carried out by a logic apps. Or you can use other solutions that the logic apps can call up, such as Azure Function or Azure Automations. Natively, the workflow automation, the logic apps, is what is preferred, but there are other ways to do as well. For AWS, perhaps you can still use the logic apps, or you can delegate after that to the AWS System Manager Automation, the SMA. That will allow you to remediate the non-compliance resource, or even better, you can create the Lambda functions if you prefer, okay? For GCP, you can use the Cloud Functions or the Deployment Manager. So if you can see, you have multiple ways to remediate the process in an automated way, and you can do it across your cloud and directly trigger by Defender for Cloud. Then you want to standardize the security policies across your clouds. You know, unify those policies where possible is important. You want to define security policies that are consistent across your Azure, AWS, and GCP. That will allow you to simplify the management and will reduce the risk of the configuration drift. Then you want to regularly review your assessment results, schedules regular reviews for your security assessment findings. That's very important. And then with that, you want to make sure that you adjust your security strategy and policies based on the insights that you are gained from those assessments. Then you want to integrate those security, you want to integrate with your CIEM, okay? You want to make sure that you centralize those logs and from your environments, and then you want to use the central location, your CIEM. Obviously, Microsoft offers the Microsoft Sentinel, and then Defender for Cloud. It is built obviously natively to integrate right into it. You want to automate the alerts and the action by setting up those alerts in the CIEM in those tools, or like if it's Sentinel, we call playbooks, so that you can respond to those security incidents, even if there are recommendations which are detected across your multi-cloud environment. And finally, which is really important, is about educate your team. Provide the training and the resource your security IT teams to ensure that they really understand how to interpret and act on the assessment finding. And the big key here is how to interpret it. Sometimes it can be a little bit confused. There's a little bit of confusion how to interpret. So it's very important you train your team to learning how to do so. And you want to encourage a culture of this continuous improvement, and obviously the culture of the proactive security management. Believe me, if you follow those steps and more other, you can, improve. You can effectively utilize Defender for Cloud and then Defender CSPM to strengthen your security posture and improve, obviously, compliance and operate more efficiently. So now let's move on and let's discuss how we actually integrate Defender CSPM with other tools for further enhancement of your security operations. Specifically, for these sessions, we are going to focus on two items. One is the cloud, the CIEM, which is the cloud infrastructure and time management. And the other one is the IT service management. First of all, what is CIEM? Well, CIEM, as I say, is the cloud infrastructure and time management, and it's a word that is heavily used today in today CNAPP solutions. But in general, the CIEM solutions are designed to manage identities and entitlements across your cloud infrastructure that will help you monitoring and controlling the access rights to the cloud resources and ensure that users have the actual appropriate permissions based on the principle of least privileges. CIEM will address those challenges such as privilege creep, orphan accounts, and excessive permissions, which sometimes or actually often can lead to security vulnerability. Well, Microsoft Defender for Cloud integrates with the cloud infrastructure and entire management capability through its collaboration with the Microsoft Enter Permission Management. This integration will enhance your security by providing a more comprehensive visibility and control over the users and the workload identities across your clouds, including Azure, AWS, and Google Cloud. You can use the integration if you have the Enter Permission Management, or you can just enable the CIEM, which is the permission management inside of Defender CSPM, which will give you a limited versions of capability. Second, the ITSM. What is the ITSM? Well, ITSM is IT service management, and it refers to those activities involved in designing, creating, delivering, supporting, and managing the life cycle of your IT services. It's been around for decades. There are many tools out there that provides this kind of services. One of such is ServiceNow, but there are others. And then they're used to handle incident, handle change request, service request, have a CMDB, those kind of stuff. The ITSM platform basically facilitates the standardized process and the collaborations across your services and your IT teams. Now let's look what are basically the benefits of integrating Defender for Cloud with the CIEM and the ITSM. So there are several benefits that are going to be unlocked by such integration that will enhance your operational efficiency and most likely response time. The first thing is the enhanced access management. That will reduce reduce risk, will enforce policies through automation. Then you have a streamlined incident response by automating the ticketing of any new security control that has been deviated from the baseline. Okay, then we'll improve the collaboration, which you will basically unify the process because the security tasks become part of the standard IT workflow, and then will promote better collaboration between both of the IT team, the IT operation teams, and the security itself. Then we'll basically give the stakeholder more visibility into the status of the security issues and the remediation efforts. Then we'll provide a more efficient change management. Changes required for security improvements can be managed through the ITSM change management process, and that will ensure they are reviewed and approved appropriately. And then finally, well, the other benefits, it's the proactive security posture. Combined with the CIEM and Defender CSPM, can continuously monitor for policy violations and trigger the the immediate action for those identities they are overprivileged. Okay, so now let's move into the best practice, how to maximize the benefits of integrating CSPM with the CIEM and ITSM. First of all, you want to consider, you want to make sure that you determine, you will identify the key use cases. You will determine what you want to achieve with integration, such as the automated incident response, the access management, or compliance report. You want to ensure that the CIEM and the ITSM tools that you use are compatible with the Defender CSPM. And then one we have it obviously I'm going to show you the demo. Then you want to leverage the native integration as much as possible, okay? And today for the ITSM, we support ServiceNow. You want to define clear policies and workflow. You want to set all the appropriate permissions so that you can ensure that the integrated accounts have only the permissions necessary to perform the required actions and no more than that. You want to also periodically review and adjust those permissions as needed. And you want to monitor and tune the integrations. You want to train your team, and you want to ensure that compliance and the audit in that you want to ensure the compliance, and then you want to ensure that everything is auditable. I can pronounce that good. So by following those best practices, you can ensure that the integration between CIEM and ITSM is providing efficiency and more secure environment for your organizations. Let's now move into a demo. So just give me a second that I'm going to switch it over. Stop sharing, and I'm going to share this one. Okay. So, well, let me move this thing over here. Okay. So first of all, as I say, the first thing you want to do is ensure that your environment is configured for your best security posture assessment, and that is by enabling Defender CSPM. The CSPM, the Foundation CSPM, is enabled by default. As you can see, it's free. There is no cost, and there is no action on your side. But the Defender CSPM, it is off by default. So you need to enable by turning the plan on. In this environment, I don't have the role or permissions to do anything. So I apologize if some of those are dimmed out. I'm going to try to switch over my environment when it is a need for it. But in a nutshell, Defender CSPM in this case is already enabled because it's also green. When it's green, also means that it's not only enabled as a plan, but also is enabled for each of the sub component. That is very important. Enable Defender CSPM by itself doesn't mean that you enable the full power of the solutions. You have to go under the settings, and you have to make sure that you have all the components enabled. So you want to make sure that you have the agentless scans enabled, both for servers, Kubernetes, and then containers, images, and data sensitivities. As well, you want to ensure that your permission management, your CIEM, enabled. Now, if you enable the plan with your security admin role, you can enable the plan. You might have one or two components enabled, but you're going to miss the other components. So it is required to have ownership for the subscription, enable the full-blown and additional other permissions. Perhaps for the CIEM, you are required to be security admin, perhaps, but also application read and write. I'm sorry, you have to be security admin, and you have to be Microsoft authorization. You have to have the Microsoft authorization role, assignment, and write for the tenant. If it's AWS and GCP, I believe you need to obviously the security admin, but you also need the application read and write and whole type of permissions. But the other thing that I want to emphasize, they also want to tell you here is that if you have the right permissions, everything should be enabled by default, but the key will be not. So then you have to go here, enable manually, or you can leverage the API to enable those plans via code, so you can implement that across your environments as needed. Once you do enable everything, then you are good to go. Now, the next thing after enable is to ensure that you have set the integration with your ITSM ServiceNow, perhaps if you have so. So how do you do that? You go down through the integrations, and then you just go ahead and add the integration for ServiceNow. In this environment, I don't have the right permissions, so I cannot go through it, but I can use my own environment, perhaps, where I can actually show you very quickly. So if I go to inside of the integrations, I actually already have one with the ServiceNow, but you can create a new one if you want to. So a couple of things here are very important for those that have never done such integrations. So first of all, you want to make sure that you give a name to such integrations, and you select the scope. The scope is very important because that defines the perimeter where you're going to apply these integrations. It could be your subscription, your subscription, your tenant. If you have AWS or GCP connected, then you can also choose AWS or GCP as well. The other thing is the instance URL. The instance URL is the instance of your ServiceNow instance. So you basically need to, you basically need to take the instance. Let her log in. It should be login. You take the instance over here, the URL, instead over here. Then you need the username and password, client ID, and client secrets. Here is a bit tricky, okay? So the username and password is pretty simple, right? So you say, okay, what am I gonna give them? You can create a username, a password, a user, an account for that, and with username and password. But then you also need to create a client ID and client secrets. So in ServiceNow, it's basically, the refresh rate of those things. And that's not it. So just apologize for a second. Okay. No, I have to get the account. I want to show from here, but okay. I don't understand why it's doing this, but anyway, in a nutshell, where you want to go, you are going to go under the all, and then under that, it is obviously a section called the users, and then also sections where are the client IDs and everything. You set them up over there. You get the client ID, you get the username, you get the password set, and then you get your client ID and your client secret, and then you obviously post them over here, and then go next, and then you complete the configurations. Once you have that, perhaps I have this one already. As you can see, I have the instance name, and then if I look in the configurations, I have enabled the incident table, the problem table, and the change table, okay? Once you have that all enabled, then basically you can do the next step. The next step is to either decide to allocate the to delegate the remediation manually to an owner and create that ticket, the change request ticket within the ServiceNow manually, or you can decide to create a governance rule. Governance rules is a set of triggers, so it's a set of conditions which will basically allow you to automatically execute the delegations of the remediations. Okay, you can create a governance rule and you can set those with a numeric priority, and then each one will apply according to their priority. You can decide when you create a governance rule, obviously beside the scope, you can set, let's do it just for example, rule name test, and then I'm going to give a priority of 100. And then you can select, you can decide that the detection is for the severity, like I say, all the high recommendation, or for specific recommendation if you want to. And that's when the actual priority comes in place. You can actually diversify in a sequence which of this rule will apply first. Maybe you have the rule apply first for the severity, and second you will apply the rule by another rule by the recommendations, so on and so forth. And you can set the honors. The honors is either by resource tag or by the email address. Okay, and then once you do that, then you can select the if you want to just create the assignment within Defender for Cloud or in ServiceNow. For ServiceNow, it's important to choose ServiceNow. Once you do that, you apply, the rule comes and gets triggered. Now, let's say that you want to do that manually. Very easy. Manually, well, basically, well, let's see. I already have a couple of those. So when you go inside of the recommendations page, you are going to be presented with all the resources that are discovered with your environment. In each resource, evaluate against a specific security control. Now, based on the resource type, the critical value of their resource, the security control, and the risk factor that were identified for their resource, such in this case, code executions, contains verified secrets. We find the critical, we find that it's exposed to the internet and will allow lateral movement and also has vulnerability. Based on those additional factors and other things that I already mentioned, then you get the critical level. With the critical level, you are able to ranking and prioritize which of those remediation you want to apply first. How do you apply the remediation? You're going to click it on it, and then you have a guided instructions how to remediate manually. You can exempt the remediation for the specific resource or for the specific subscription, or let's say for the specific scope, where you can actually enforce the preventions or trigger the logic apps manually to do an automatic fix. Or even better, at this point, what most companies will do will assign an owner and a set due date for a change request. So here, that's what you do manually. The governance rule will do this automatically for you. So even here, when you assign it, it's very important to select ServiceNow. Otherwise, it will never go to the ITSM. You're gonna assign you're gonna fill them up with the assignment details. You're gonna pull the email address of the person that is considered the owner of this change request. You're gonna set the remediation time frame. You want to also apply the grace period. This grace period, if you apply, will basically work in a way that the vulnerability, the misconfigurations, these weaknesses will not influence your secure score during the period of a remediation time frame. And then also you want to set notification if you want to set, to notify the owner weekly and the owner direct manager if you want to. Once you do that, then that creates the assignment just like here. Like a machine should have a finding a result, okay? That's been assigned to this person, okay? So if I go under here, I can see that if I go under here, I see that the ticket, the recommendation has been assigned to Maya. And then I have actually a ServiceNow ticket that I can just click it on it and then work through it. Now to see the status. The integration is bidirectional, so that means that once it's closed, it will close over here too. If you go under the ServiceNow, under the Maya what do you call workspace, you can see that she has a ticket assigned to her. So Maya Robinson has the same ticket as a ticket, which is this one. You can click on and it will take you to the same place. And you can click on it and you can see the ticket. Now, the good thing here is that you will have now all the details about this ticket if it opens up. And then in ServiceNow, you can see that the summary of the ticket, you have the link for the remediations. You can actually set that is assessed right now and save it. And then you can also go ahead and see if there are any related records associated with this ticket. Perhaps it's the it's the server, the MSDN01, the server here that is involved. And then the server is the configuration item. And then you can see what services is impact. It's impacting the Azure Tier 1 applications. This is very important. So now you can do the same thing when you look for what do you call the CIEM. In CIEM, you have, once you enable CIEM, you have the sense of the recommendation based on the identity. Perhaps some of those are the over-provisioned identity should have only only the necessary permission. If I look into my own account, okay, I can see here that CIEM has evaluated the level of permissions that my account has, and then has assigned also a PCI score of 83. This is the creepy index, and 83 is pretty high. As a matter of fact, the PCI range is high. What you can do over here, obviously you can remediate by doing them manually, and we explained how to do it here. You can actually triaging a little bit more by actually looking the roles and the permission that are really assigned to this user. And we can see that this user has 6,254 permissions that have never been used. And then overall permissions that he has used 32. So he's over permitted pretty much. And that's very important. You want to reduce the level of permissions to this account because it is an account that doesn't do much, and then it can be breached and can do very, what do you call, a lot of, it can do a lot of damage. So with this, I conclude my demo, and then I should be able to bring in my PowerPoint, and then I want to basically say thank you to attend this webinar. And then obviously, if you have any question, you can ask. I'm not sure if I wasn't tracking the chat, so I'm not sure if the questions were already asked, but if there are any questions that are not asked, please do so.
Great, thanks, Giulio. The team's been great with answering questions. We do have a few that were left unanswered, and you may have addressed some of these earlier in the presentation. So just let me know if that's the case. So the first one is, Defender for Cloud can plug into DevOps to scan for vulnerabilities at different stages of the pipeline. Can it also scan inside IDE like Visual Studio?
I'm not aware, and I'm pretty sure that it's not able to scan inside of the Visual Studio. It will scan the code once it's inside of the repository.
Okay.
So yeah, the answer is we scan on build.
Yeah, we scan
We're
on.
not in the IDE right now.
Right. Exactly. So it has to be inside of repo, ADO, GitHub, GitLab, and then obviously we scan through once it's crossing the CI/CD pipeline.
Great. The next question is the foundational CSPM enabled by default, as in no need to configure anything? In
there is no need to be configured. It is enabled by default for Azure, AWS, and GCP once AWS and GCP are connected.
Okay, great. The next question is a bit long. Can we save some costs by not enabling some of Defender for Cloud workload protection-based subplans, such as agentless discovery for Kubernetes or agentless VM vulnerability scanning, as it is already part of the CSPM plan? why to pay for workload protection plans separately if getting workload protection components or protection is in the CSPM plan.
So there is no save. There is no the notion of saving money if you have one and the other. They do overlap, but not entirely. I'm going to give an example. The Defender, the agentless for virtual machine scanning, which is available in Defender CSPM, it's also available for the server side, right? The P2, okay? Not for the P1, just for the P2. They both work exactly the same. They use the same platform on the back. They do the same exactly thing. There is only one difference. The one for Defender for server, P2, adds additional layer of capability, such as offline scanning for malware, so on and so forth. Okay, so number one. Number two, if you don't have Defender CSPM, for some of those agentless capability, you're gonna lack the what do you call the contextualizations of the insights. Okay, that will correlate the security weakness of one resources in correlation with the environment of the other resources. Okay, if you don't have Defender CSPM. Now, inside of the one for perhaps the data sensitivity, it's almost the same. But when you enable that inside of Defender CSPM, besides giving the context, will now generate the alerts on the actual threat alerts for the storage accounts. Okay, so by enabling those storage accounts, you also get the contextualization, but you also get the specific alerts when there is something that is going to be breach a specific data, and that data is obviously evaluated as sensitive. Okay, so there is a difference in that. But if you have a Defender CSPM and the other plans together, there is no reduction cost. There is no plan for that.
Great. That seems to be all the questions we had. So with that, I'd like to thank you, Giulio, for being our guest and for sharing the great information with our community. Also, thank you to the Q&A team who helped us with answering the questions and providing the resourceful information. To all the listeners still on the line, if you're someone who wishes to aid in the protection of the world from cyber threats and desire to have a say in shaping our strategies, blueprints, and recommendations, then we invite you to become part of our security community. Together, we can make a global impact. So join us at aka.ms/security community. This is also where you'll be notified about the upcoming webinars, events, and other announcements. For those of you who may have additional questions on the topic we just covered or other product-related questions, please feel free to raise them on our Microsoft Tech Community discussion space at aka.ms/MDC community. Thank you all for being part of our community and for joining us on these webinars. We hope to see you next time. Goodbye.